It happened on the kind of rainy morning that made the world feel heavier than usual. Gray clouds hung low over the New York skyline, mirroring the weight in Emily Stanton's heart as her wheelchair rolled quietly down the hospital corridor. The wheels squeaked softly, a lonely echo of dreams long shattered. Just 6 months earlier, Emily had been a name whispered in every corner of the dance world. The youngest ballet prodigy to ever lead the New York Academy's grand performance. Then came a night of rain, headlights, a screech of tires, and silence, a distracted driver, a slippery road, a single moment that stole everything. Her spine was damaged beyond repair, or so they said. Since that night, she hadn't walked, and worse than the paralysis was the loneliness that followed. Everyone called her brave, but they didn't see the nights she cried into her pillow or how she forced a smile just so her father wouldn't look at her with that helpless, haunted expression. Charles Stanton, billionaire CEO of Stanton Global, was a man used to fixing problems, with money, power, and precision. But no amount of wealth could buy back his daughter's legs, and no empire could rebuild her spirit. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet courage of ordinary people who change lives, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because sometimes, a single act of compassion can become the beginning of everything. Charles had tried everything. Elite neurologists, world-class therapists, even controversial foreign experts. He converted an entire wing of his mansion into a private rehabilitation center. But nothing worked. Emily barely spoke anymore. She withdrew into herself, haunted by the memory of the girl she used to be. And it broke Charles, not because of what people might say, but because a man who built empires now stood powerless before the one person who mattered most. So he made one last decision. He took her away from the city, away from the noise, the pity, the sterile smell of hospitals, and brought her to a secluded recovery retreat in the mountains, a place called Healing Storms, a sanctuary that promised not just physical therapy, but emotional renewal. The air there was crisp, cold, and clean, almost too pure. The mountains loomed silent and vast, and though the staff was kind, they treated her like another name on a chart, another case in the system. On her third day, something unexpected happened. Emily sat outside one of the wooden cabins, her blanket draped around her, eyes fixed on the distant treetops. The world was still and gray. Then a small voice broke the silence. "Hi," she turned. A little boy stood there, no older than 6. Freckles dotted his cheeks like stardust, and a stubborn cowlick curved through his brown hair. He looked curiously at her wheelchair, then met her eyes and smiled. "My dad says you're really sad," he said simply. Emily blinked, unsure what to say. "He says sad people sometimes just need a different kind of help," the boy continued. "He can help you. He helped me when Mommy went to heaven." And before she could answer, the boy pointed toward a nearby greenhouse. There, a man in worn jeans and a navy t-shirt was tending to plants. His hands looked rough from labor, but there was calm in every movement, grounded, gentle, real. When he noticed Emily watching, he smiled, not a pitying smile, not the forced grin of a doctor, just human. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Not because of pain, she was used to that, but because of what the boy had said. "He helped me." Who was he? The next morning, she sat sketching outside when the man approached. He didn't comment on her drawing or her silence. Instead, he knelt down slowly, as if approaching a frightened animal, and held out a small flower he'd picked from the garden. "You don't have to smile," he said softly, "but maybe this will make today 1% better." Then he stood and walked away. His name was Adam Miller, a single father who had once been a respected physical therapist at a major hospital. But after his wife's sudden death, he left it all behind, moving to the mountains to raise his son and rediscover peace. When he wasn't volunteering at Healing Storms, he taught survival classes and grew medicinal herbs. But what no one knew, not even the doctors, was that Adam had a gift. He didn't just treat injuries, he treated people. He reached them emotionally before he ever asked their bodies to move. It took weeks for Emily to let him near her. She fought him with silence, sarcasm, and shut doors. But Adam never pushed. He would sit nearby while she painted or gardened. Sometimes his son would play in the grass beside them, his laughter threading through the quiet like sunlight breaking clouds. And slowly, Emily began to talk, then laugh, then cry, and finally, trust. One misty morning, dawn stretching gold over the fields, Adam looked at her and said gently, "I think your body's waiting on your heart, and your heart's waiting on permission to believe again." She didn't respond, but she didn't look away either. Later that week, she agreed to try something new, something different. Adam designed a therapy built not around machines, but around memory. He recreated her old ballet studio inside the cabin. Mirrors, bars, soft lights, and the faint scent of rosin and wood. Classical music played softly as sunlight spilled through the windows. "I want your body to remember what it used to love," he told her. The first sessions were agony, trembling, frustrating, filled with tears. But this time, the pain had purpose. She wasn't a patient anymore. She was a person again. And then one morning, when Adam gently placed his hands at her waist and said, "Let's try to stand together," her legs trembled, her breath caught, and for the first time in 6 months, they held. 3 seconds, 3 perfect trembling seconds, and Emily wept, not from pain, but from hope. Charles Stanton couldn't believe it. He had spent millions on specialists, yet this ordinary man from nowhere had done what none of them could. He confronted Adam, his voice low and raw. "What makes you think you can fix her?" Adam didn't flinch. "Because I don't see her as broken," he said quietly. "I see a girl who forgot how strong she is." That was the day Charles finally let go, and let someone else in. Progress was slow. Some days Emily regressed, others she surprised herself. But Adam was always there, not with orders but with calm. He never promised she'd walk again. He only promised she wouldn't face it alone, and sometimes that was enough. Then one golden autumn evening, in the open field outside the retreat, Emily took 5 unassisted steps. Just 5, but they were hers. Adam's son laughed in delight nearby. Adam smiled quietly, his eyes glistening. And Charles, the man, who had built empires, cried freely for the first time in years. In that moment, Emily believed again, not just in recovery, but in tomorrow. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us bring more light, more love, and more healing to those who need it most. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments which moment moved you the most. And if you'd like to see what happens next, when Emily decides to help others find their strength, let us know. Because sometimes the greatest miracles begin when someone simply refuses to give up on hope.